So we are recording. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome. Laura is experienced in my SEO podcast, so she is like third time, and like today topic will be totally different than our previous ones because I really want to get her expertise from the international SEO, and like she's senior SEO consultant, so she has much to say. So Laura Iancu, thank you so much for joining, and the stage is yours.
Oh, thank you very much, Adi. Honestly, I'm always so happy to be back and just have a chat with you. It's always so easy going, isn't it? It just feels like it flows naturally, and I love that. And I hope your audience feels the same when they listen to us natter about stuff. And you're
Nice.
absolutely right. I remember, I think our first ever chat would have been more than 2-3 years ago now.
I
It's
think
mad
even more
how
three.
time flies. Honestly, it's just mad. Honestly, and then I think we've also done another one maybe last year. I want to say I honestly can't remember. I can't pinpoint it now. I think it would have been last year. And then obviously we had the chance to meet together finally in person during Brighton SEO. So that was amazing. It's always nice to sort of, get together and actually share that hug and a bit of a more heart to heart approach. So yeah, thanks for having me back. For everyone who doesn't know me, and I'm just going to do a very quick intro and sort of where you can find me and all that. I am Laura Iancu. It's a bit of a tongue twister if you're an English speaker because of the whole I suppose the hard R's, Laura, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I do prefer, obviously, if you can call me Laura, that's amazing for me. If it's too hard, Laura is absolutely fine. Or Law is actually quite I think a more popular one. Or Lau. I think Adi, you call me Lau normally, don't you? Yeah.
I'm calling people by wrong names, so I wouldn't surprise myself that I'm calling you Lau for years, and like even that is not your nickname.
It is, and I'm trying to make a point into this because our main topic today is going to be international SEO and dealing with brands, international brands, and clients. So the reason why I made this point about my name is because I think this is like 101 on how to communicate efficiently and share that sort of caring approach towards different cultures, nationalities, and clients from different backgrounds, isn't it? So yeah, a little bit very, very quickly about me. I've been doing SEO for probably shy of 7-8 years now. Wow. Yeah. Every time I say it, I'm like, I can't believe it. I come from a bit of a development background, web design, a bit of a content creation, all that. So I can say I'm sort of versed into the whole wide range of SEO. And I've recently started getting back into working internationally. My starting would have been in international SEO. I had a bit of a break trying to work a bit agency side and client side, mainly with the UK markets. And then I've decided it's time to get back into the game. And yeah, that's it about me. Really looking forward
Congrats.
to recording today. And yeah, welcome.
Congrats. You know, like it's always inspiring to see like this journey because it's a full of growth, and like we know like how this can be hard, and like but again it's inspiring. It's the world worth living. So that is something that even it's connected with international SEO because so many SEOs are afraid of the international going into global markets, doing these for global brands. So I really want to start with a mindset behind, like people are saying, like, is it so different from local, like websites who are just like .com, or like how to even like go internationally. So we can start with just like when you are approaching the brand who is going globally or is already global brand, like what are kind of first steps that you are checking and seeing, and like how you are kind of approaching like these brands.
That's amazing. It's a very good question, Adi. So, first of all, it's funny we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. So I'm just gonna refer to that. I was saying to Adi that even though with the risk of, I suppose, not getting a client there and then or start working with a brand there and then, I think what I like to employ from an SEO standpoint is a bit of transparency and have a very quick audit, understand the clients, their main competitors, and their business goals, And I think the business goals is the actual keyword, well, pun intended, and sort of see whereabouts does SEO actually fit in, and if it does fit in the beginning, in the middle, or perhaps at the end. So as I said, I do like that transparency. I like to sort of like do a quick audit and find out more about their business goals and start from there. Because I found that a lot of the times, if you're doing the technical bits right, you've got your pref lang implemented right, and just the basic bits right, there at that point in time, there's a very big chance that they don't necessarily need you for a while. So yeah, I start from there, again, with the risk of like not getting the money there and then, or I rather build that trust and commitment to a brand or a client and go from there, because I think trust is everything really when you work in SEO, isn't it? You can promise the world, you can, and I 100%, a lot of us, when we started working in this field, we were sort of, as we're edged into like trying our best to kind of offer the best service and cover all grounds, and that pressure to sort of like wear the multiple hats, and you end up not even delivering an SEO strategy anymore. Sometimes you deliver like an entire business plan, and that's not what they need from you. They've already got their business plan. That's not your job. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's sort of my approach.
Yeah, and also when we are talking and thinking international SEO, you know, like there are so many different aspects. Like you mentioned, like one technical, like these kinds of things, but also from the content perspective, regarding the business kind of like the service and like providers, like what kind of they are. Then we are going into like so many details. Okay, if they are needing like different content strategy, the localization, the translation, you know, like so. For example, even like if you had your example on your side, you know, like how you are approaching the content piece from different markets, from like even like from the markets that like in the another languages.
That's a good question. So I had an amazing experience to sort of start my career more seriously with an immense localization project. So it was, honestly, I felt like I was thrown in the deep end, but I loved it because I had to sort of adapt and, like you said, create that mindset behind it to sort of get the best results out of a scenario that wasn't necessarily planned through. And I think a lot of the times, yeah, not to call out businesses, but I think a lot of the times they get these ideas, you know, in the boardroom, like, oh, we want to expand into, we've got a business case, so we want to expand into this country, this country, this country. And then a lot of the time there's a case of like running around like headless chicken, trying to find translators, trying to find content creators in that same, in that language and all that. So yeah, I was lucky enough to like have a very good system put in place. So when I joined this it was a packaging marketplace / SaaS product. So it was personalized packaging. It was quite an interesting approach, I think, towards personalized packaging. They're still going strong, actually. They boomed overnight. Like they literally, like during the pandemic, they're like, you know, and somehow they've managed to put things in place to have the specialized content creators, so not translators, content creators, to take sort of charge of those set markets. And that's where someone like me came to sort of like make sense of all that and make sure that we're not translating word by word product names, and you know, we're inventing things willy-nilly just because they sound good or they're their own brand, if you like. And my first sort of approach was, first of all, to find I can't remember the name of the tool. I think it was called Phrase at that point. I think they changed their name after, but it's a very good taxonomy creator. So basically this website would have been in WordPress created. It was, yeah, I don't recommend it, but yeah, at that point it was in WordPress. And we've had a couple of integrations that would sort of oversee that smooth transition and translation, initial phase translation for different product names and product descriptions and all that. And at the end, I would go and sort of do a quality check and get the help of these content creators, even though they didn't necessarily have SEO background, to do a proper keyword research. right? Because I don't speak German, for example, and one of the markets I would have worked on would have been German. So we needed obviously someone who was proficient and knew the product, in German. So yeah, I always say don't get cheap, especially in the beginning stages of a product like that, because matching those product it's so important to create the right taxonomies and serve the right intent and understand the markets first of all, and the different users. And think about, like, for instance, now with one of my clients, I work on 3 different continents. I work in Asia, I work in the States, and in Europe. Okay, I would say it's a bit easier for me because I've been doing it for a very long time. But when they threw me into Japan, I was like, what is this? Like, honestly, I started doing a bit of research. I could barely understand the user, right? I could barely understand the UX needs for someone that's from Japan, for example. So what I did, I went in Women in Tech SEO, right, in the Slack channel. I posed a question. I was like, anyone here that would be willing to sit down with me and sort of like just a couple of hours in a week, and go through a few insights when it comes to, like, user journeys and SEO in Japan. And I've had 3 people that reached out, which I've stayed in touch with. We've ended up like helping each other in the end. Donated some coffees for Women in Tech SEO for facilitating, obviously, this I suppose research, if you like. And yeah, so honestly, there's so much to do when it comes to like approaching different markets. It's just, you need to be just aware. So I think the first step, the mindset, because you like to mention the mindset is awareness. First of all, awareness, and then you go and do your magic. But find the right people to work with.
Yeah, and what I see, like, definitely we can have some assumptions, but like in most of cases, like we are going to be wrong. And just like thinking that like we need that research, we need that data, because we can't know, especially in the other languages, with the cultures, with how people are looking for some things, like how people are buying cars in the Asia versus like in States. There are so many different like approaches, and without even having some kind of like interviews, people who are living there, just like getting their mindset, is actually, it's impossible to just like start with some starting assumptions like how it can be. What kind of like the biggest mistakes you are seeing that like these global brands are doing when they are going into new market, or they are already on the new market without any kind of research?
Yeah. So I don't think I've had the experience so far of working directly with a brand that hasn't had a previous business case into expanding into another market. But I would say the biggest mistake so far, it goes back to trying to save money from places that should be prioritized in the beginning of a project. So perhaps continue that research. So when you started your research, build your business case, and you go on ahead with, I don't know, creating a staging, or before going live and all that. I think I think that's the moment when you actually should actively spend money into researching. The one and done isn't gonna cut it. In my work in the moment, but in my experience so far, they do tend to drop at the beginning because they think, oh, we've got enough, but it's never enough. And especially now with expanding into AI search, when like, this is so different. And again, each country is different. Like, for example, because we're talking about Japan, Japan's got amazing relationship with like Perplexity, right? Which for us here in Europe, I mean, it's very rare, brands wanting to be in Perplexity. In my experience so far, they normally target ChatGPT, and obviously now with the ads, it's going to be a bit of a no-brainer. And obviously Google's AI search, so AIO, AI mode, and Gemini. But yeah, like, just think, that I feel like that research, it needs to be, especially in the beginning of a project. Don't just think, oh, it's one and done. Keep doing it and see where SEO can actually start really helping. And I'm not talking just technical SEO, I'm talking about content now. Because again, the technical thing, I mean, that can be sorted out very quickly in the beginning if you've got the right consultant, and then you can have, I don't know, if you're working clients if you're working with outside consultants, you can literally just have, you know, a consultation once every couple of weeks, do an audit. So yeah, I think the content side is more sort of problematic in the
Mm-hmm.
in the long run if it's not necessarily strategized. Sorry about my cat, by the way. She keeps interrupting my train of thought.
No, she's welcome also.
Yes,
And
meowing.
I'm happy that you mentioned AI, because that is something that, especially like global businesses are trying to now leverage in the wrong way. But like, correct me if you have any experience like differently. So how now the global brands are trying to incorporate AI like in these international SEO strategies? So what you are seeing like from the kind of like common threats?
I mean, I think the first thing I'm saying is I'm going to start with the positive and then with the negatives. So I think the positives is that it puts SEO a bit more on the map. I think people are more interested in sort of understanding what SEO actually does and the revenue opportunities from this channel. They do confuse it a lot with AI search. Obviously, we're not all like engineers, you know, but in a way, I think if you're passionate about this field and improving, I guess, and staying up to date, you will eventually end up wanting at least to understand more about the mechanisms behind how a large language model works, for example, and educate your client as much as you can, or their content team, or you know, share your findings pretty much. So and I suppose that always comes with a bit of disclaimer, right? Because being the volatile environment that it is, and we already have a lot of volatility from Google anyway, but adding this layer on top of it, it can be quite daunting. So it's very important to kind of make that clear, I think, from the get-go, and not go and do the whole AI, because that's where I'm trying to get to, where you have a lot of people becoming experts overnight, if that makes sense, and they come with different strategies that, I mean, in my experience, a lot of them were questionable. And I always say this because I'm one of those people that do understand how large language models work. I've been literally deep into search generative experiences for years now. Funny enough, I think my first case study that was published about it was like 3 years ago. So yeah, I understand. And I understand that people get obsessed with one bit of it and they think, oh, I know it all now, so I'm going to make these recommendations. But please think about the damage that you can also do in the long run. Like, you don't think about the quick win and, oh, I'm going to get £1,000, you know, this week because I've said to this client to do this and this and this. Think about the long run and respect that brand you're working with, respect your clients, and yeah, stay transparent. Like, it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to sell yourself, you know, under something that you're not, just because, oh, everyone's obsessed now with AI. So I think that's my perspective on it, in a nutshell. Just keep it real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that definitely we need like more real people, because it's very easy to see who is fake, who knows, who doesn't know. So interesting thing, when I was working with a global brand, like I was always expecting, like, you know, like they are a corporation, they are an enterprise, you know, like they have like global offices across the world. And I was like, yeah, definitely these people are successful. And like, then when you are working with them and you are seeing that like their website is like on the same kind of like a language for UK, for Australia, for states, and like the content duplication is like so obvious, and like you are expecting that like they will understand, that they will be open for a kind of like new decisions, you know, like for the advisory, you know, like, but then you are seeing that like these people, even they seem, you know, like they're leading global brands, like they have just like no kind of like direct contact with the SEO, they don't understand, and they thinking, you know, like, so how do you approach like even like there is a mindset behind it, like big brands are, successful and they know SEO, they value the SEO, versus like some cheap clients who don't understand the SEO and the value. So how you're approaching the kind of even like conversation with the global brands where they don't see the kind of value in changing, like even content duplication, href tag, like these kinds of things, where you need to be like technical, but they just like in most of time, like the change will not impact in a few even like weeks. It will impact like in the 3-4 even like months. Maybe we are not going to see the change. So what do you see like the difference in the conversation when you are talking with these people, like versus some local client who is just like doing local SEO?
It's again, you've got the good questions. Like, you can tell your experience, with international SEO, and you probably had to deal with both sides quite often. So I appreciate it. So first of all, I am extremely fortunate not to have to like sell or try to sort of like get people to come to me and understand that, hey, your duplication might be an issue, right? I again, very fortunate, and I'm that kind of individual that I'd rather not get necessarily rich on trying on having to deal with these headaches. I know I'm your atypical SEO. It's just how I work. I'm prioritizing my well-being and my mental health, and actually protecting the enjoyment that I get from doing my job, right? And I what do you call it? Prioritize and just love that more than going after the cheap type clients where I have to like. That's something that I don't do. Back in the day, I found it quite frustrating because I thought, if I sort out your duplication issues, for example, depending on the size of your website and the markets that you're in and all that, you'll think that's one and done. You brought me in so I can sort that out for you. Leave my legacy task list in Jira with your developers and have that sorted. But it's a difficult one for me because I can't imagine myself in this time, right, having to deal with this anymore. I just don't do it. Back in the day, it was frustrating. I'm not going to lie. I feel like I wasn't necessarily speaking the same language. And a lot of the times I'd be on a call and wanting to have access directly to someone who was speaking the language a bit more, understood the actual issues. And what I found it did work in certain cases was the show and tell. And I remember this specific thing with a contact list. I remember I had this client, New Zealand, Australia, and they were from here, from the UK, and they were operating in these 3 areas. And their actual contacts, their contact page from the UK, was showing into New Zealand, and they kept getting calls in the and their customers were absolutely like going bummed at what's happening, right? And I remember just doing the show and tell quickly and showing them, look, that's something that needs sorted. Oh, I wasn't aware. Well, that's why you need people like me. So yeah, if that was sort of my go-to, it would have been a show and tell. I'd be looking at it, show and tell, and then try to use that language to express that, talking about the user, talking about what they're missing out and all that. But yeah, again, nowadays, I honestly, I know I'm probably not doing well in that sense. And I do think about it sometimes. I'm like, I should probably, fill in those couple of hours that I've got in the month with smaller projects, not necessarily retainers. But
you don't need that headache.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, mind you, my cat eats really expensive food. He does not touch the regular one. And I always think maybe I should say yes. But no, I think I'm okay like that. I'm protecting my peace.
No. But actually, you mentioned a crucial thing, and that is how to communicate with the clients by their language. You were showing the result, what their customers are getting. So,
Yeah.
like they are frustrated by that. So even like we are trying to explain like all these technical details across like different locations, like they just like don't care because they don't understand. But like when you show them the final impact, how that is causing even like their revenue, frustration with the customers, and like all these things, that is a pain that we are hearing with our clients, and they are open to say, like fix whatever you need, like just like fix this kind of things. And that is the definitely right approach, what I'm seeing, how to communicate with clients, because SEOs are getting so stuck with constantly explaining SEO, explaining technical things, explaining, like, and of course, like these people are not SEO, they don't understand. So it's kind of like really our responsibility to explain them in their language, like to normal people, like that is like win-win for both of us, because they will see the value what I'm trying to fix, and like it's a win-win for me as well. And definitely regarding like these smaller projects, like like even like with the coaching things, like with myself being SEO consultant, like with the cheap clients, the headache is real. And like it's Titanic, like you can't win whatever you do. You can just like spend months, years trying to explain what you are doing, and like they are constantly trying to decrease your price. And like in the end of the day, like we are making that decision, like, hey, if I'm going to work like this, or I'm going to find new client who is really appreciating and just like seeing the value in the SEO. Because like you can't put like more water in the one cup, and like if these clients are not seeing the value, like just like leave them alone, like don't be that parent, like you need to do this and this and this. No, like we are all adults. If they are not seeing the value, perfect, just find another new client who is seeing the value, and probably this will be more successful, because successful people are successful for the reason, and like they don't need to know the technical details, but they will value you as your expertise, as you as advisor, and they will say like, do your things, I will pay you, and I'm running my business. So like every time when we are saying yes to these kinds of clients who don't see the value, it's hard no for us. So like, and definitely you experience that, like I was experienced that for years, for months. Every yes that I was saying to client, it's a big no for me. And like I was paying that with my mental health, with my therapist, with my coaches. So in the end of the day, it's a losing game. Okay, so do you think that there is anything else from the mindset perspective of the international SEO that like it's very important to know?
Sorry, the cat's very vocal.
No.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
she wants to say something about the international SEO.
I think so. Well, she's an international baby, because I had a
Here we go.
brought back from Romania. So yeah. In terms of mindsets, it's honestly it's a very long conversation, and I think it is dependent on the scenario. I think it's very important before you start anything, right, to kind of take a step back and look at the sort of value that you can genuinely bring to a project, and then have a look around at your surroundings, even if it's virtually, right, and understand the people that you're supposed to work with to deliver said projects. And if there are red flags, if there are a couple of things that you're thinking, do you know what, this might require a bit more from my side, but you know what, it is worth it at the end of the day, then follow your instinct, go with it, deliver, But if your instinct is saying to you, they might try to skimp me, they might try to like reduce my rate, they might try to like pair me up with experts, they're experts that you can clearly see they're not necessarily well trained or prepared, then you might want to think about a different type approach. If the clients or the brand are willing to offer you the environment, the tools, and the means, to deliver this to your best standards, then go for it. If there are too many blockers, that can come back and bite you in the ass. and make you look like someone that doesn't know what they're doing. And you do not want that, especially in SEO, because we've already taken ages to prove that we know what we're doing. Like, because there are so many scammers out there, and it is difficult, and you don't want to join, that list of like, yeah, I don't know what to say about them because, this and this, when in fact it's not necessarily a reflection of you. It's just you saying yes to something that was potentially a bit dodgy. So yeah, think about that mindset. And again, don't be afraid of losing money, because at the end of the day, what you don't want to lose is your reputation, right? And whatever you're working to build, around your persona, your career, your brand. At the end of the day, especially if you're working as a freelancer, you need an army to get to a point where you're confident enough and popular enough and have the right contacts to actually like land big clients and big projects. It is difficult, it really is. And once you get to a good point, you don't want to mess that up for yourself. You don't want to, and especially if it's not your fault. Your only fault would be being, oh, I want to help this brand. And that's the thing, you might love the brand. Like, I've had an experience where I'm not gonna, no names, I'll tell you after. But yeah, I've had an experience where I was literally looking up to a brand. I was like, oh my God, what you're doing for the female industry. And yeah, I was like, amazing, right? And I had an opportunity to help them localize a few things on their app. And I've met the team, and they weren't willing to change or add or anything because they were there for ages. And I was like, I can't work with that. I'm sorry, but I actually can't work with that. If you want me to work with that, that's another level of me start training your staff, which I don't have capacity to do so. And then obviously giving you a new rate. And whenever they hear there's more money involved, they're like, oh,
Yeah, that is a thing that is very connected with the international SEO. Like, people are expecting, like, it's kind of like with the e-commerce, like SEOs are expecting that they will gain, like much more money. But definitely, if you don't have the experience, if you don't have like the right approach, and you are not having the right client on the other side, it can be really like nightmare. And definitely when it comes to international SEO, like, that is a moment when you need to really stop doing hourly rates, because it's not about the hourly rates. It's about like strategy. It's about experience, expertise that you have, and you need to value, like value-based create the pricing. So it's a great project who knows and who loves like these kinds of things, but it's definitely much more than like these kinds of like assumptions that we are making in the first place. So yeah, I think for people who love like the strategic thinking, who really love digging, researching, approaching it's real kind of a proper doing like international SEOs for them. But also, if you are not kind of like that person, definitely run away, because it's a kind of it's specific type of person of the SEO who would be engaged in like be successful in the international SEO as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You summed it up perfectly. And I don't want this to sound as, oh, do this. Because at the end of the day, we are different individuals, and your needs, in the moment might actually be different than mine or someone else's. You might need to think, oh, I need to pay rent this month, and I'll have to say yes to this project, even though you don't resonate with it. And what I'm saying is, do what you need to do, but be aware of this process, because the process is not going to change regardless of your needs. And it is sad if you think about it. In an ideal world, we would be all working on, our best projects with the best brands, but it's not the reality, unfortunately. And take it with a pinch of salt. But regardless of the decisions that you need to make in the moment, be aware of this process, be aware of the fact that these are the consequences, and think about damage control and potentially how you can come back from something if it doesn't go as planned. So have a bit of a contingency plan if you like. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I love that. Okay, Laura Iancu, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for the energy, and definitely we'll see you in one of the next episodes.
Woohoo! Thanks, Addy. See you later. Bye.